Hi, and welcome to Issaquah Buzz, where we talk about all things business in Issaquah, from retail gossip to new restaurants. My name is Autumn Monahan, and I work with the city's communications team. I'm here with Jen Davis-Hayes, who works in economic development and one of my favorite coworkers to talk all things business with. Hi, Jen. How are you doing?
Oh, I am doing all right, but we're still really feeling our hearts go out to the many residents and businesses in Issaquah that have been impacted in the last few days. So,
And for those that are listening or watching that may not have been in Issaquah the past week, I know we have some regional listeners or viewers. Issaquah experienced an unprecedented windstorm on November 19th through the 20th overnight. It was something that in all my time working for the city, I have not seen as far as impact when it comes to wind. Significant emergency here in Issaquah. Jen, you and I had already recorded an Issaquah Buzz that encouraged Small Business Saturday, but we've decided to pause that for a moment and really talk more about the effects of the windstorm, kind of what happened, and then how we can support our local business community. So before we get too much into talking about that, I did want to mention if there's any residents or businesses that need help following the storm, they can go to issaquahwa.gov/November windstorm, or you can call a number that's available 24/7 at 425-837-3200. We're here to help. We're doing damage assessment now, Jen. Yesterday we had crews out, even just kind of tracking down to looking at, physically looking at property and seeing what the damage is. We've got a lot of this on a map, and it's just amazing to zoom out. A lot of this happened and the impact was on the valley floor. Yes, there was some, of course, on the hillsides, on Squawk and other areas, but the windstorm just ripped right through the valley floor, and that's where we see a big part of the impact and the damage. When the sun came up on November 20th, after the windstorm had somewhat passed, what did you and your team see as far as damage to businesses?
yeah, so similar to other places in the city where we saw trees down, but it was I think it felt a little bit more jarring when you see a large tree and it's been uprooted right next to like a parking lot or whatever it may be. So we drove around. We saw, of course, lots of trees down, lots of dark buildings. We noticed a few of our buildings that had roof damage. One of our businesses, which we'll talk about later, had a tree through its building and completely devastated that business. But we also saw some innovative entrepreneurs out there using electricity from their cars and working in the dark during daytime hours. Even if they weren't open for customers, they were doing the work they needed to do. And so I think that just shows that the spirit that our business owners, have. Like, okay, we can't do this, and this, but we can do something to try to get back up to track. And of course, a lot of businesses were going in, and if they didn't have a generator, they were hauling out their produce and their meat if they could, to save some of that. So it was truly still just immediate. Let's figure out how to get the immediate things done, and then think about what's next.
I am always just amazed by this community and our resiliency. And we saw it through the pandemic. We definitely saw it in the past week during this windstorm. Issaquah is so resilient and very creative, right? And figuring out ways to get things done. Yeah. I was working in the city's emergency operations center for the past week and was just reflecting how many times businesses helped us in providing service to the community. I mean, we were out purchasing charging cables and extension cords for our resilience hubs where people could be able to charge their devices or their medical equipment. Local businesses were feeding us as we were working these long hours. And so that was always so appreciated. We had our community emergency response team volunteers, they're called CERT, who were handing out flyers. And the first place they went was grocery stores. Yeah. So businesses are often the place where community members gather, and that's the spot we could reach them the most with information about how we could support them. Online, amazingly, a lot of the posts we had most popular ones were around what grocery stores were open or where you could get gas or where we could get the supplies that we just rely on that Issaquah businesses provide us every day. And so, in these times of emergency, it really does resonate how important these businesses are to our daily lives. So that hit home for me. What are some stories that resonate with you that's happened in the past week around businesses and their resiliency?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the businesses, Ashley Hammond Violins, was severely damaged. So a tree fell on its roof, and many of the string instruments they have in there were ruined because not only with the tree crashing the roof open and the rain impact, but the sprinkler system, of course, added some water to that damage. So again, just without words, because Ashley Hammond Violin serves customers throughout the region and the state and beyond. So it's really going to be impactful to many people for a while. But a little other piece of that is that there's about 20 part-time music instructors that use that space to provide lessons in the building. So those 20 other small businesses. So we put out a request for temporary space to allow these small businesses to be able to continue. And we have received some good leads, but if you have any other ideas out there, you're aware of a commercial space that they could potentially use. It's going to be, a temporary space, but it's going to be for several months until they can figure out how Ashley Hammond Violins will be back on their feet. So we really appreciate the responses we got about that. And then another call received from the general manager at Spring Hill Suites. So they had 100 rooms reserved by PSE for their crews. And that was great because we're like, great, they're here in Issaquah. Yeah. But he needed more space for their crew trucks because, they all come with big trucks that can't fit in the parking garage. And so the general manager had already contacted the surrounding property owners about, can I use your parking spots? And we brought this problem to the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, and our public works staff and our police staff problem solved. And we're right on it to cone off one lane of Maple to provide more spaces just for the PSC crews. So the general manager was so happy because, again, then we have the PSC crews that were in Issaquah and, closer for us to restore power quicker. So small but very powerful things like that our staff and different business owners and different people in our community came together and really did really helped out.
Yeah. So yes, some businesses and homes had, physical damage by trees that fell, but pretty much every business in Issaquah had some kind of impact, right? Because power was out for so many days. What does that mean to a business when your power is out for that long?
Yeah. So the ones that weren't working in the dark, many of them had loss of sales. And so that's restaurants, that's retail stores. And as we know, this is the season when many retail stores make enough money in sales to be profitable for the whole year. So having 5 or more days without these sales can really make a difference. Employee wages, right? So they're still paying their employees, or the employees are not getting paid. So that's an impact. The loss of inventory. So again, many of the restaurants had to pull out their food from the freezers and the refrigerators, and it was some, they had to discard. And then we saw that some were getting deliveries that they couldn't cancel because of the communication challenges, right? So, a new truckload of produce or meat was being quote unquote delivered because it was pre-scheduled, but they didn't have any electricity to actually store that. So again, it's the time of year where there's a lot of sales. And taking 5 or more days out of that really impacts the bottom line for businesses. So it's not just oh darn, I don't have access to internet or lights, but how that spreads out to the employees and to everybody else that is impacted by businesses.
Well, and as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, we had already recorded a video that was, a week ago, which seems like an eternity ago now. That was very much focused on Small Business Saturday. Small Business Saturday is still coming this weekend after Thanksgiving. But, a new call to action really is support our local businesses. As we realize how much we rely on them, it's time for us to to eat at restaurants, eat locally, shop locally as we start any kind of holiday, our holiday gift lists, and support those who support us, right? And so the timing is right now that we really, really give back to those businesses. So how can we do that besides, how do we find out like where to go shopping or what are some good locations for checking off all of those spots on our holiday list?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I think a lot of us are like, how can we help? Right. So this is one very tangible way. So of course, we want you to do, Issaquah Loyal, shop local every day of the year. But again, this weekend is particularly called out for nationwide Small Business Saturday. So we encourage you to go to the stores that you already that you frequent and the owners. Go to again, as you mentioned, to the restaurants, get takeout, whatever it may be, and don't forget about the online businesses that, again, without internet, they haven't been able to do those sales. So you can learn more about those businesses and more at visit issaquah.com, visit issaquahwa.gov. And it's the Issaquah Loyal Holiday Guide, which is up top of the website. And that's going to give you in different categories for your shopping needs. And again, also some online businesses that are selling some great products that would be great presents. So we really appreciate everybody who's shopping. And if you could hashtag Issaquah Loyal, if you have any pictures of gifts or things that you're doing to support the business community, that helps to celebrate broader. So we appreciate everybody's small and large ways to support businesses during this time.
Great. Thank you, Jen. And thanks for you and your team and all of the work that you did to support businesses in the past week. I already have memories of you and your team driving around and reporting on business status or, hosting a Zoom for local business owners. Yeah. There was so much that your team did to support our community this week. I'm really grateful. So thank you. And again, if you need any help or support, whether you're a business or a resident, go to our website or again, call 425-837-3200 and we'll find you some help. Thank you. And hopefully you have a great holiday season.